Hey everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Design Cinema. Sorry for the long delay. We've been quite busy here with our school. We're actually moving to a new location soon, so been quite busy doing the contracts, blueprint, working with designers, architects, and all sorts of different things. But anyways, we're back on track here, and don't worry, the Design Cinema will continue. Hopefully next week I'll do another one and keep these things quite updated. Anyways, even though we have a drawing started here, this is going to be a question and answer special edition, I guess, of Design Cinema, but I thought it would be kind of boring to just have a blank screen or maybe show my face talking, which is quite not interesting. So anyways, I'm going to just put a random painting that I recorded yesterday as a background as I try to get to you guys' questions. So anyways, hope that helps. So I'm not going to go over what's going on in the background here. It's just a random painting of a zombie apocalypse. That's kind of fun to paint. I was talking about it on Facebook yesterday, so might as well paint one. Okay, so let's get to the questions. Yeah, so these are compiled over time. Various questions that showed up on YouTube, and hopefully I address most of them. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start with some basic stuff. So first of all, thank you all for answering all the questions, asking all the questions and checking out our channel. So we really appreciate that. And also, if all the answers I give you guys here are my personal opinion, so they're not the one answer for all, nor is it the opinion of all the professionals out there. So it's just my personal view on things. Okay, so let's get to one of the first questions, which is custom brush. How do I make it? Making brush in Photoshop is extremely easy. You just basically go to edit and define brush, and you can make anything into a brush. However, my advice for that is to always practice with the default brush. The round brush is the best. Don't get into too much customization at first. Just learn to paint with that and use it for maybe even 6 months to a year before you start touching other brushes. The next question, what tablet do I use? I use the Intuos 3 and the Intuos 4. Both of them are good, but I actually prefer the Intuos 3 because the surface feels better to me. Of course, it's completely up to personal choice. I just used the Intuos 3 for such a long time. I'm very, very used to it. I do have a 4 in my office, but again, I use the 3 most of the time to do most of my paintings. All right, next question, PC or Mac? Doesn't matter. They're exactly the same thing. If you got the cash to spend, then go ahead and get a Mac. They're a little bit better. They're more stable. But I use both. I use G5s as well as extremely powerful PC. You're going to pay a little bit more for the Macs, but they do look cooler. They look cool in the studio, and their monitors are extremely cool looking as well. So, if you want to go for the image thing and, have your office look really nice, go get a Mac. But performance-wise, they're pretty much the same, especially if you use Windows 7 64-bit, which is what I'm running. It's a very stable platform, and I rarely have Photoshop crash on the PC nor the Mac. Okay, next question. Actually, along with those questions, do I use other softwares besides Photoshop? No, currently I'm using Photoshop CS5 at home, in my home office, and I use CS1, I believe, which is Photoshop 8. It's very old to do all these demos that you guys have been seeing. So to me, it doesn't really matter. If it does what I need to do, it's good enough. But CS5 does have some very good advantages, one of them being that the 64-bit version takes advantage of all the RAM. If you have a Mac, you already have the 64-bit anyways, doesn't matter. But it also has some nice tools with it. Some of the skew tools where you could manipulate the image is much more powerful in CS5. But I don't use those things too often, so it doesn't really matter. And some ask, do I use Painter or Alias Sketch? I have those softwares, but I don't use them much. Painter is a nice little software, except it's just very unstable. And during production, I can't afford to have my program crashing all the time, so I actually don't use it. It's fun to play around with it, but it's just very, very unstable. Okay, so next one is layer settings. What kind of layer settings do I have? I don't touch layers too much. As you guys see, most of the demos I've done, they're painted on a single layer or maybe just 1 or 2 layers. Don't worry about that as well. This goes back to my advice with the brush thing. Don't get too involved in Photoshop's various settings. Photoshop has literally unlimited ways to do something, but I think one of the best way to learn is just do stuff the hard way. If this is just a piece of paint and you got a piece of pen or paper, that's all you got, and treat Photoshop the same way. Don't get too much into these filters and all the various brush settings, the layer settings. Just use default. I'll explain some of the other settings I do use though later in this Q&A. Okay, DPI settings. For DPI, for digital painting nowadays, it doesn't really matter. I use a DPI of 1, because now it's all about pixel resolution. So if your pixel resolution is high, say like 5,000 or 6,000 wide, your image will print pretty pretty okay, right? And for most of us, we don't print stuff bigger than 11 by 17 or A3 size here in Asia. So if you go to 3,000, 4,000, even 10,000 pixels wide, you're not going to get pixelation. So DPI really doesn't really matter these days in terms of digital painting. Okay, let's move to some questions relating. Sorry, I'm moving fast because got about 20 something minutes to do all these questions. All right, so let's go to a design and drawing related questions. First of all, what's a drawing style, or is there a style to industrial design? In reality, really there isn't. Most industrial designers, we all actually draw very similar. If you take an outsider and take a look at the work that we do as a whole, the industry as a whole, you'll see that most of us draw exactly the same as far as styling goes. You can't tell one person from another. However, what sets you apart is your design styles. That we do have a style, you know what I'm saying? Because for me, for example, I'm heavily influenced by military and aircraft and all those, not a nature stuff in my work. Maybe another designer is influenced by retro stuff, maybe architecture. Everyone has their design language influence, and that's what sets you apart. So when clients are hiring you, what they look for is your design language. What kind of style in design do you do versus how do you draw? Because we all draw very similar. We draw the industrial design way, which is just it's almost like an expanded version of architecture. It's just a communication tool. So our clients, they assume that everyone who's working in industry could draw well anyways, but it's not about that, right? It's about what are you actually drawing? What's the content? And that's what sets our style apart. So we actually don't really have a drawing style, and that's not something you should probably focus on anyways. Focus on getting your drawings to look good, and focus on coming up with good design languages. Okay, this actually goes back to the earlier question, which is the black layer I use. How do you set that up? That's very, very easy. Just make a new layer and paint it in with black. Just fill it with black. Press I think G or something like that shortcut, and you fill it with black, and then set the layer setting to saturation. So that is one of the special layers I do use. And when you set the black to saturation, what it does is turns everything underneath it to black and white, and it's a great way to check your values. So for most of my digital paintings, I'll always have the black layer above all the layers, so it sits on the very, very top, and just turn it on once in a while to check your saturation levels. Okay. So let's see. How come no traditional media demos? Well, for that is because I'm a production designer. I'm an artist, whatever you want to call it. I don't work in illustration or selling my artwork for money. What we sell is design. So therefore, we use whatever tool the industry is widely used. Right? It's just like if you're building a car, you won't be building a car by hand anymore if you're doing a major manufacturing company, right? You use the machine or whatever technology comes along, because our job is to get the most designs out in the fastest amount of time in the highest quality, and digital is the way we do this line of work. So that's why I don't do any traditional medium anymore. In fact, I don't even sketch in sketchbooks anymore. Everything is on the digital side, and that's because that's what we do, industrial design stuff. So I'm not an artist. I don't go to coffee shops and sketch and do all those kind of things. When I go home, I don't do anything that's work related. So even though I love this industry, to me, at the end of the day, it's just a job. It's a very fun job, but I leave the job at work. And when I go home, I don't want to be have anything to do with it. You know what I'm saying? So okay, next question: design versus function, which is more important? This is a question. This is an answer that's always 50-50, because neither side is the winning side. However, there is one word that you have to keep in mind, which is the word cool. Because no matter how real you make the function or how interesting design, at the end of the day, we are selling entertainment. We are selling something that when the users or the game players or the movie watchers see, they think, oh man, that is cool. And how do you arrive at that cool? Could be a variety of factors, right? Because you always have the function over form or form over function. I think they're driven by both sides, because you could come up with a design, for example, maybe a spaceship, by figuring out how does it work. Is it facing forward? Does it have thrust engines? Does it have anti-gravity pads? And use all the functionality to derive at a design, or it could simply just drawing random shapes and find an interesting shape and turn it into a spaceship. Both methods work, but at the end of the day, whoever's, if you have an art director or a client, they're the one who's going to look at it, and they don't even care how it looks. All they care about is it cool. They don't care about how you got there. Did you figure this out because of NASA research and stuff? Sure, all that stuff has an influence, but at the end of the day, it's all about, does it look cool? Which comes to the question of why is the understanding of it so important, research and development for design? It's because all the stuff we draw, even if you just come up with a shape randomly, you find that professionals, when they draw kind of just mindlessly on a sketchbook, their shapes look very, very good, and that comes from experience and understanding. They know the curve, which curve looks good, which curve looks bad, and for that to get to that point, you do have to look at the real world a lot, and that's something we instruct our students here to do pretty much all the time. Sketch in their sketchbooks, know the real world, know how something works. So when you are designing a spaceship from nothing, there's some kind of functionality built into your kind of intuition, where the engines go, where the cockpit goes. There's something that makes sense about it, and that's generally what drives the word cool forward, because the user sees that and they get it right away, versus complete random drawing, complete random detail, complete random design language. When someone looks at it, they might not know that it's random. What they know is that, hey, it doesn't look that good, therefore I don't like it. Okay, let's see. Let's get to some of the other questions here. This is actually related. Which method is best? Design just purely from sketching, or design by thinking about the function. Me personally, I like to design with some functionality in mind. I do like to give myself some notes. So if I start out, for example, this zombie painting that's going on in the background there. To start this painting, I give myself some couple of notes. For example, where is this taking place? What time of day is it? If it's taking place in a real world versus a imaginative world, do I need to do research for the right things? So I approach it from more of a functionality point of view versus starting to sketch completely randomly. So I told myself I want a Victorian house in there. I want some city stuff on fire. These are kind of things. I want some trees in there, some trash buildings. Those are things I have to keep in mind as I paint. So the function of the environment then drives the painting forward. And I do that for a lot of designs I do, including vehicles. I always give myself some parameters. For example, is it anti-gravity? Is it powered by engines? Is it diesel? All those kind of things, and that then drives my sketch forward. So that's my personal preference. I do know designers who start with complete just happy accident, I guess, jamming shapes together, which I've done a few times in these demos, and that also gives you nice shapes and forms over time. So, okay, let's get to some education and career related questions. So I'm speaking really fast, so pardon my grammar. So I really want to run through all this. Okay. So specific subjects for why do I focus so much on man-made stuff? The reason for that is because I'm an industrial designer. I study industrial design, which is actually in our school is actually we started with product design and transportation design. So we're drawing like CD players and cars and those kind of things. But we take that knowledge and bring it over to entertainment. So most of the stuff I learn is always heavy architecture, heavy vehicle, heavy perspective-driven things, and that's also my area of interest. You do notice that a lot of us who study industrial design can also do characters and creatures, but that's not the strongest side of what we do. There's generally a lot of guys out there who focus specifically on characters and creatures, and a lot of them also come from industrial design. So it depends on your education background and which field you want to get into. So for me, it's all about the environments and creating new planets and plenty, new worlds and big giant spaceships and all those kind of things. And that's where my interest lies. So I decided to focus on industrial design, and therefore all my subject matter are driven by industrial design related subject matters, especially hardware. So in the industry, they generally break it down into two sectors, especially in the film side. You have your hard surface and you have a soft surface. So hard surface are the guys who do what I do, the planets, the vehicles, the droids, and all those kind of things. And then soft surface are guys who do the costumes, the characters, the creatures. So that is quite divided on the film side. Okay, so next question, what are paint overs? Paint overs are generally paintings that our students or somebody else does. For all the demos here, it's always been our students. That what I do is one of the best way to learn is to learn from your mistakes. So we have our students do the homework, and what I do is I point out what those mistakes are, or even if it's good, how do we enhance it? And when you paint over somebody else's painting, especially our students, they really get to see, wow, the thing I started here with more work put in, or maybe when a professional touches it, it could become even cooler than before. And what they could do is they could follow that advice and carry it through on the next painting. So it's a very, very good learning practice that we do here quite a bit in the school. So paint overs is just me taking students' work that have a lot of potential in their work and just work directly on top and fix or enhance what they already got. Okay. how do I get fast in this industry? That's a question. Unfortunately, there's no good answer for that. The only way is practice and a lot of time spent. There is no shortcut in our business at all. There's no magic trick. There's no filters. There's no special software. There's no special brush. There is nothing. The only thing you got is time and practice. So the more you do it, the better you will get. And we've seen that, for the many. I've been teaching what 9 years now almost. I've never seen a student who doesn't put in the time and then suddenly become really really good. Everybody I've seen that eventually made it out there who are now working on games like Call of Duty and Battlefield 3 and all these, right? A lot of these are my students from the past. They're the ones who worked extremely hard in school and put in just hundreds and hundreds, thousands of hours doing what they do, and eventually they broke through. After 4 or 5 years out of school, they're now in the big giant companies making the biggest games and films in the world. So it just takes time. So don't rush. What the thing is, don't focus on time at all, but don't focus on rushing. Focus on doing stuff and doing and practicing all the time. So do it over and over and over. Okay. Next, explain copyright. This one's pretty straightforward. If you do a work automatically, especially in countries like the United States, in California, and these states are very protective of artists. If you draw it, you're pretty much copyrighted to it. You're the owner of the image, so you don't really have to do anything. You don't have to mail the stuff to yourself. All that kind of stuff is kind of like, I think, urban myth. As long as you've done it, you have evidence that you did it, that it's your work, and if somebody else uses it, they're infringing on your copyrights. And therefore, I'm very very big on don't copy other people's stuff, because when you do that, you are infringing on somebody else's work, including photography and all those kind of things. If you're going to use textures and stuff, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, whatever texture you use from somebody else's photo, and even in the zombie thing, I got some random textures in there. Most of them are from my library and stuff like that. But those are essentially have some copyrights to them. However, the way they're used is for some of their wood texture, for some grain. Everybody in the industry use that, because the original image by the end of the day is destroyed, is gone. So therefore, you're not taking someone's photograph and claiming to be your own and then trying to sell the photograph. That will be illegal. Okay. So which career path, the next question, should I take? What's the difference, illustration versus industrial design? That depends on your personal choice. What do you want to do? Typically, illustrators go into the industry such as painting posters, magazine ads, Magic the Gathering cards, and these various cover for Time Magazine, Newsweek, New Yorker. That's kind of the illustration side with design, whereas the industrial design go in and do make the worlds and make the planets. However, there's a big giant gray area in between. There's always both. There's illustrators that does a lot of design, and there's designers who do a lot of illustration. So it depends on your area of interest. If you want to, if your mind is to create worlds and vehicles and big giant planets and big space battles and sci-fi worlds and stuff, then probably industrial design is the way to go. If you want to get into creating characters, things like working for Pixar, Disney, these areas, creating beautiful little illustrations in which the medium is heavily driven by art or traditional art, such as a studio like Disney, then illustration is probably the better choice for you. Both of them are very good. Both of them are very in high demand. So it's, again, completely up to your own personal taste and what industry you want to get into. Next question, which is a weird one. Not weird, but very common, but difficult to answer, which is how much money can I make? This is actually very common sense. If you're good at what you do, you'll make a lot of money. If you're not good at what you do, then you make the same as some guy making minimum wage. That's the same. Our industry, just like any other industry, if you're good, you specialize, you do something that can make your clients money, that if you get onto a game like Battlefield 3 and you help them make the game look awesome, of course these studios will take care of you and they'll offer a high salary to keep you on board so you don't go to your competitors. I don't think EA will like it if one of their guys goes to Activision and does exactly what they've done on their game onto another competitor. Do you know what I'm saying? So they give you a lot of perks, one of them being in monetary gains, shares and all these kind of things. So you'll make a good living doing this kind of stuff. Our industry is well funded. All these companies that make these games are multi-billion-dollar and multi-million-dollar companies. So if you could contribute in a positive way, they will definitely take care of you. That you don't need to worry about how much money you make. You do just as well as a top surgeon or a top lawyer in firms. Same kind of money, right? But if you're not good and you're kind of hanging around a dead-end job or whatever, then not contributing too much to the studio, then you stay where you are. You earn very little money. So again, it comes to your experience level and how much effort you want to put in and your ultimate abilities to do your job correctly, right? Which is in this case design. Okay, next question. I'm young. What should I do in the meantime? So my advice, if you want to get into design, start studying the world. It doesn't even have to be necessarily drawing related. Just read a lot of books, especially picture books are good. Not children's pictures books, but things like how do things work. Flip through Popular Mechanics, National Geographic. These things are visually driven magazines or visually driven books because one, they show the photo. Two, they explain how it works. They tell you the science and the understanding behind it to get your brain thinking. Because as for a designer, really, you're just a problem solver. You use your drawing skills to deliver solutions. That's all you're doing. Clients come with you with a problem. They're like, well, I want a giant spaceship. Well, they're not tell you what the spaceship looks like. It's up to you to come up with what it looks like, and you use all that knowledge you gained from the past, like how does something work in space, what makes something big, all those kind of things. Those are knowledge you put in to design that spaceship. So understanding is really, really important. So while you're young, spend the time studying the real world, understand everything about it. From anatomy to nature to machine to mechanics, everything out there as much as you can, because all that stuff will help you in the future. Okay, so that kind of covers some of the major questions I got. The next section here, I'll cover some just general advice for you guys out there. Some random questions as related to our industry. So one of them is how do I get noticed? How do I submit my stuff to companies? One of the best ways now, because the internet is just so huge, just put your stuff on the web, put it on a blog. If your work is good, it'll get passed around. A lot of professionals, even myself, I look at a lot of artist blogs. I look at people who are good, and I'm aware of who's out there, and I also get emails from my friends who are in the industry who forwards me good blogs and good portfolios. So if you're good, your stuff will get noticed. The thing not to do is to force your work upon others, right? For example, tagging people in Facebook is a ginormous no-no. Don't do those kind of things because when you do that, you're gonna get yourself deleted from whoever you're trying to send the stuff to. Myself, including all my friends, if you get tagged, the first thing we do is remove that person from our list and then ban them from reaching us, because you do not do that kind of stuff with professionals. It is extremely amateur. It's kind of like walking towards someone on the at Comic-Con or something like that, and they're on the way to the bathroom, and you stick the portfolio in their face and go, "Hey, look at my work, and what do you think?" You got to make an appointment. Take your time and submit a official thing for the professional to look at your work. That's the right way to do stuff. You know what I'm saying? Instead of forcing it down someone's throat to go, "Here, look at it," or else. When you do that, they're gonna of course delete you, right? So use the internet, use forums, use blogs to get your work out there. And the second part is don't bother the professionals. A lot of us don't mind answering questions. However, you got to imagine that a lot of us also get a lot of questions in our emails. So my inbox right now is a couple of thousand emails in there, just some random questions everywhere. The thing is, in the beginning, I try to answer them. However, once you start getting into them, you're going to get feedback, you're going to get back and forth, and there's no way to keep track of the hundreds of emails a week from various people. So at the end of the day, a lot of emails just go unanswered. Not because I don't want to, because I don't have the time. So that's not because they're ignoring you. They just simply don't no time to get to everything. So that's why I use this Q&A to hopefully address some of that. Also, my advice is get a lot of books, buy a lot of books. Try to avoid art of books if you can too much. It's good to have them, but don't look at them too often, especially if you're starting out, because art of books can be very, very depressing to someone who's young, who's starting out, because you're seeing finished work and you're not seeing what it takes to get there. You have to go through the hard part, and art of books and these kind of books don't show you what's behind the scenes. How did the designer come up with that? Did he use a line drawing first? Did he use a photography? You don't know. So it becomes kind of confusing, and the only thing you see is the finished work, and that can sometimes be quite depressing. And also travel a lot. Okay, buy a lot of books, go travel, take a look at the world, draw a lot, and don't worry about speed. Okay, focus on quality and draw everything as if everything counts, and just do a lot of it. And the more you do, the faster you will become. So that kind of just hopefully wraps up this Q&A. If you guys have more questions, just feel free to post it in our YouTube channel, and I'll have our staff collect those over time, and they compile it for me, and I'll maybe do another Q&A in another few weeks or so. But next week, I'll go back to digital painting again. I have no idea what subject matter I'm going to do, but we'll paint something fun. So in the meantime, we're back, so don't worry. All these design cinema will continue. And thanks for watching this very quick episode. And I guess I'll see you guys maybe next week or the week following. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye-bye.